Hello and welcome to LionWing Talks, a show where I discuss all things LionWing, tabletop games, Japanese games, and localization. I'm your host, Bradley Hailstorm, founder and president of LionWing Publishing. This is episode 40 of this LionWing Talk show for January 27th, 2026. Hey, it's been a while since I've been here, right? I mean, like 3 or 4 months, which I think is the fastest turnaround I've had in a couple of years. You would think I kind of lead off these shows, at least I have for the past like 2 years, saying like, "Hey, it's been a while." You'd think that would be my cue as to like do these things more often. Yet here we are. I'm sure I'll see you for the next one in July. But hey, welcome. We're doing one tonight. It's a special occasion. If this is your first time joining us, thank you for checking us out. Welcome. Hope you like the show. If you are a returning veteran of the show, welcome back. Always glad to have you. I see some names in the chat who I already know, which will be fantastic. So what is the special occasion? Why am I doing one of these LionWing Talks, considering I only do these things a couple times a year anymore, and it's usually to announce something or to talk about something big. And of course, what we're going to be talking about tonight is Shin Megami Tensei, the role-playing game Tokyo Conception. But I'm here to take your questions on anything and everything related to LionWing projects, no questions off the table. I'm going to be talking about all the things tonight. So why am I talking about SMT tonight? Well, because today was officially the launch of the physical edition. This one's been a long time coming, folks. I know. Only 2 years overdue. Sorry about that. These things are complicated. But here we are. Books are getting into people's hands. Most of domestic orders have gone out. I even saw some chatter in Discord today, and I think I saw it over in the chat tonight, that even some of the folks who bundled items and got the LionWing bundle are starting to get those books. That was one thing that we hadn't started shipping out last week. I was told we'd start shipping them out this week. Seems like we have, which is awesome. More books in people's hands is always a good thing, especially for this game. People have been waiting a long time. We're still getting orders out internationally, so those are going to take a little minute. International logistics and international shipping is never quick. It's always complicated. Something always goes wrong. Sorry if you're across the sea. If you cross the pond, we're getting those books to you as quickly as possible. Of course, you don't have had to have ordered a book from the LionWing shop to be getting your books now, because in many cases, the book is available in bookstores. And if it's not available in your bookstore, especially if it's a big box store, it will be soon. We just took a big order from Ingram, who is one of the largest, not one of, it is the largest book buyer in the world. And Ingram is sort of a middleman between publishers slash distributors and brick and mortar stores. And so they buy for brick and mortar stores for the most part. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's a little too inside baseball. No one will find that conversation interesting. All you need to know is Ingram is a book buyer, and they just put in a very large order last week. So what that means for you is the book will start showing up on bookstore shelves very soon. I checked my local Barnes & Noble over the weekend. It was not there yet, though I suspect it will be. Now, the good news is when I went to my local Barnes & Noble, that they had sold out of Picaros Roman, Convictor Drive, and Fledgewitch, which is cool. Last time I was in there and I looked for the books, they still had a couple copies of each. They did not have a couple copies of anything. So maybe the cold weather, keeping people indoors, people want to play more RPGs, and they're checking out some anime RPGs. Hey, that's always awesome. Nevertheless, SMT wasn't in my bookstore. I expect it to be there soon. Hopefully it'll be in yours soon. I think some Amazon orders might be shipping. Guys, I don't know about Amazon. I don't know what's going on over at Amazon. That's been kind of a clusterfuck, to be honest with you. So stay tuned on the Amazon news front. At this point, though, Amazon's a bit tricky because they placed orders for the old book a long time ago. Obviously, we didn't ship those books to them. And so they started canceling pre-orders, which they will do once like pre-orders get to be like of a certain age. They begin to cancel orders, refunding people, all that good stuff, because they're not sure when the book is going to come out. And so I think within that Ingram purchase there were some Amazon books going out. I'm not entirely sure. So still trying to figure that stuff out. Nevertheless, books are in hands, and that's a good thing. So yeah, this has been a long time coming. Pre-orders went on sale March of 2024, and here we are at the end of January 2026. Sometimes with these projects, especially when you're dealing with like physical print media, there's a lot of nightmare scenarios that can happen, and oftentimes you're not spared the nightmare as a book publisher. I actually don't know of any book publishers that have been spared nightmares, but what's worse is sometimes you're not only hit with one nightmare, sometimes you're hit with a couple, which was kind of the case with S&T. Of all the projects for it to happen to, this was the one that it like didn't need to happen to, and yet it happened to not the most, because we've had one other project be more difficult than this one was finally get into people's hands, but this was one of the top, if not the second most complex set of circumstances that we've had to navigate since we started printing physical media back in 2018. So, when I inked this deal, I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, if there's ever a time for all things to go right with getting these books translated, edited, printed, freighted, and shipped, and on shelves and in people's hands, like, this is the one. Just please let this be the one. And this was not the one. Murphy's Law in full effect. Hey, someone's just said Murphy's Law. Perfect. Hey, someone said, thanks for congrats on getting it done. Appreciate that. This project has been in the works for so long now, since, when did negotiations start? Like, time means nothing to me anymore. I think negotiations started 2021, 2022. So this project has almost been in the works for 4 years now. Of course, announced only 2 years ago. Yeah, I think that timeline works out, because I've been working on getting the deal done and like going through all the complicated logistics of translating a 20-year-old game 2 years before it went live, before we announced the project and pre-orders went live, and it took another 2 years from pre-order to now. So yeah, about 4 years in the making, this one. Hope I never have to do that again. So let's see here. I'm going to start working through some questions. This is a question and answer. So this is an AMA, if you will. So ask me anything and I will answer it for you. I'm going to be looking at Discord as well. So if I'm looking off screen, I promise it's because I'm trying to find questions to answer right now. All right, so a couple things. Someone said, I've literally never seen a LionWing RPG in a Barnes & Noble in my life. That's unfortunate, because I've gotten many pictures of our books in Barnes & Nobles. You need to have a conversation with your local Barnes & Noble and ask them what they are doing with their lives. They need to get some LionWing in their stores. Apparently they sell. Gotten some checks from them. The checks say they sell. So, I know when we first inked the deal with Diamond, we had a weird rollout, and we had some folks go to their local Barnes & Nobles, because I had taken pictures at my local Barnes & Noble and said, hey, Convictor Drive is in Picaresque Romans in stores. People went to their local shops, didn't find anything, said, hey, can you carry these books? And then we had people reach out to us, and they've been carrying our books ever since. So yeah, maybe talk to your local Barnes & Noble. Okay. Let's get through some questions. I'm scrolling to the top of the chat. Sorry if I'm reading these things in real time. Let's see. This makes for good audio, I know. First question is, yes, that is a Full Metal Alchemist mug. Indeed, I'm drinking a little vodka out of this bad boy tonight. A little vodka cocktail. If you've tuned into some of these before, you know that I've always got some kind of booze with me. Passes the time, makes this thing much easier. Okay. I have a question from Discord user Jeezy Crazy. That's quite the name. What happened to the quick reference guide and Rito sample PC? I said I would ask for it. Well, you are doing your fellow Discorder proud by carrying the mantle and asking this question here tonight. Okay, so what's going on? The quick reference guide will be available soon. Rito is done. It is done. It is being held right now. It's being held for reasons. You will find out what those reasons are soon. I can't say anything more than that. This wasn't the original timeline, but licensing's funny like that. Sometimes these things are out of your control. So stay tuned on that. The quick reference guide will be available in February. So that thing is almost done, which is good. Let's see. Okay. So question about SMT. I'm fairly certain there are some expansion books. Are there plans to publish those in English? Yeah. So the expansion books are interesting. There are a lot of SMT RPG books in Japan, dating back to the mid '90s. I initially reached out about Tokyo Conception, primarily because Nocturne is far more recognizable than Shin Megami 1 and 2 for all the obvious reasons. But after that was done, after I inked the deal, we started working on it, and we had established a good relationship with Atlas, and then Sega of Japan, and then Sega of America. Everyone realized, like, oh, okay, LionWing, these guys are legit. Once I felt like I had built that trust, I did go to them and say, hey, so there's all these other SMT books. I would love to publish all of them. All of them. It's like free money for you. Why not? The books already exist. Someone somewhere at some point in Atlas's history looked at these things, signed off on these things, said they were good enough for the territory in which the books were being released, which was Japan. So like this was, I said, like, this is a no-brainer for you. There's not a whole lot of work that really goes into this because these books have already been vetted by you guys. Now those people didn't work there any longer, as we found out. None of the original folks who had worked on this project on the Atlas side of things, when it came to approving all of the documents, design documents, all that good stuff 20 plus years ago, they no longer worked there. But, you know, to me, it was like someone thought this was good enough. So like, this is easy for you. We translate it. We'll let you look over our translations to make sure like we didn't translate something, horrible. But like, this is easy for you guys, and I would like to start at the beginning. Like, I would like, let's take the original release. Yes, it's first edition, and Nocturne Tokyo Conception is third edition. But like, people aren't going to care. It's just more Megami Tensei. Like, let's do this thing. And Atlas came back very quickly and swiftly, said, yeah, no, we're not doing that. No one outside of Japan knows anything about Megami 1 and 2. And I was like, pretty sure that's not true. But let's act like it is. It's still Shin Megami Tensei. And whether people have played the games or not, like, this is a built-in fan base. Like, people who like SMT will get into anything SMT that you put in front of them. Like, it's such a loyal fan base. It's such a dedicated fan base. Like, at minimum, we're going to sell to SMT fans. And like, that's no different than selling some kind of figure or whatever. Like, and hey, we might find that we bring in some new fans who want to check out SMT because there's more SMT RPG books at their local bookstore or at their local game shop. And we can accomplish that by just publishing more of these books. And let's start at the beginning. And they effectively said, like, yeah, I got what you're saying, but also we don't have that opinion. And we don't care about yours. So I was like, okay. You gotta know which hills you're gonna die on, right? I wasn't gonna die on that one. However, there are some books that came after that do directly tie into Tokyo Conception, and I would love to be able to publish those. Yes, I would. So that's a really long-winded way of not answering your question. All right, next. I knew someone was going to ask about it. Will we get the end to the encounters in the Vortex World plays? And I'm assuming you're talking about the actual play. We released 2 episodes, and I built it as a 3-part actual play series. And we have recorded all 3 parts. We've put up 1 and 2. 3 is done-ish. We had some issues with like the overlay and the graphics and the audio and mastering the audio specifically. It's mostly done. It's mostly been done for a while. It just hasn't been at the top of my list of like things to get out immediately. I was really just focused on getting the books out before focusing on anything else. So episode 3 is coming. It's taking a minute. I apologize for that. I think it'll be worth the wait, but mastering audio of a 4-hour actual play takes time, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist, which serves me well in many regards and absolutely does not serve me in others. And so this is one of those times when we probably could have released episode 3 already with the first round of mastering that we did on the audio, and I just didn't like it. So we went back to the drawing board, and that's where we've been at. I shouldn't say we went back to the drawing board. We just had to go back and remaster the audio. So episode 3 is coming. It is coming. I promise it is coming. I mean, it's already done. I'm not going to not release the thing when it's already done. A couple questions about the Rise of Truth actual play. Are there plans to conclude the series with 2 sessions? Will the VODs be uploaded to YouTube? Yes. Yes. That's the hope. We did if you're new to LionWing or new to the Discord or whatever, we were doing a community SMT play night. What was that, like once a month, a couple times a month? I can't quite remember, for a while, and recorded all of those. I mean, it went on for a while, and the plan is to go back and release all of those at some point. That's just a massive undertaking, because while some of you saw it in real time and you saw it in its raw form, again, my perfectionism is coming out, and I don't want to release the videos in raw form. Now, some people would say, like, just who cares? It was just a community game. You don't need super high production values. Unfortunately, that's not how I work. So, yeah, I do want to get to those, though. Any chance people could add SMT to their cart to ship with one of your other crowd-funded projects? Okay, so this is a little more difficult. Some of our Kickstarter projects, when you go to checkout, like with Kedamono or with Where's Blade, once we get that pledge manager up and going, you can add on other LionWing projects to your pledge. And that way, when that particular Kickstarter project ships to you, it'll ship with whatever other books you added to your pledge when you were going through and completing your pledge manager and all that stuff. That cannot happen with SMT per the terms of our licensing agreement. So the only way to get SMT is going to be through some kind of digital platform, e-commerce site or whatever, going to the LionWing shop, of course, finding a book at your local bookstore. If you want to buy from your local store and it's not there, especially if it's in like an FLGS, tell them that you'd like to order the book through them. They'll get in contact with us. We've been in contact with a lot of retailers over the past month or so, of people reaching out and saying, like, hey, we've got customers who want your SMT RPG. Can we put in a bulk order? So you could do that. The other option, though, is, now this would only work if you hadn't backed to the particular campaign that you're asking to add SMT onto. And that is, let's say it's Kedamono, and you haven't backed that Kickstarter campaign, but you do want that book. You just pre-order it through the LionWing website, and then you can add on SMT there. But we are not allowed to include SMT in any of our crowdfunding projects. Even like post campaign, we can't do it. Atlas and Sega were very clear about their stance on being tied to anything crowdfunding related. So they've been burned in the past couple times, specifically in the tabletop scene, and basically said, like, yep, we're good on crowdfunding. We're not going to do that ever again. So that's that. Okay, next. Oh gosh, I just jumped down super far. Oh no. Okay. Makes me wonder what licensing could be involved with the stats and moves of Rido and Nocturne. Indeed, yes. Indeed, what could that be? Okay. Going through here. I will buy SMT slop. Hey, I mean, won't we all? That was my whole shtick to them, was like, I consider myself part of the SMT fan base. I will buy anything. If you put it in front of me and it's SMT, I'm going to buy it. I may never like actually use that thing, but I'm going to buy it. So like, you guys want to make some easy money? This is the way. Whatever. I do have my own question. Is there any hope for you getting a 6th edition made. Yes, a whole new version. This is an insanely optimistic question. I think it's possible. I really do. I mean, I'm. It's not like my relationship with Atlas is done or anything. And I have pitched many things to them and Sega over the past couple years. And by and large, outside of, completely shutting down the idea of those earlier SMT RPG books, they've been very open to listening um, to what I've pitched them. I have gotten quite far in a lot of my pitch proposals, and some of those things will come out in time. We'll announce them in time. None of them is a new version of SMT right now, but I do think that there is interest from them. I think the biggest thing for them is when I came to them with this wild idea of translating this 20-year-old book. Obviously, it's a totally new regime over at Atlas these days, especially compared to 2 decades ago, and like literally no staff attached to the original SMT books were employed there any longer. They had retired or moved on, moved to other companies or changed career industries or whatever. So what I found to be the case, and part of what took so long in getting this thing, getting the deal done, is like they didn't quite understand what it was we were trying to do. And they didn't quite understand, well, some of them didn't even, some of them did not even know that there were SMT tabletop RPG books. And by some, I mean like a large percentage of all the people we talked to did not know these things even existed. They didn't have copies of them. Like a lot of companies will archive product like this, at least a couple copies just to have them. They even went and like checked their archives, checked their warehouses. I was CC'd on a couple internal emails of like going to some of the older members of Atlas and seeing if they had some kind of knowledge of this or if they knew someone who worked on it. And they didn't. And so they just didn't like understand this concept. They didn't understand that these things existed. And then there wasn't like an understanding exactly of what like a tabletop RPG based on Shin Megami was. And so a lot of my time was educating them on these books, on the series, and then educating them on the tabletop market, and specifically the tabletop RPG market, because that's different than the board game market. Atlas has done plenty of things, especially on the Japan side of things, in the board game realm. They've licensed out various things for tabletop games, but none being tabletop RPGs. And so even kind of like name dropping the stalwarts of the medium, dropping D&D, it was still kind of like, yeah, but we don't get it. And so once I got them on board with this idea and people like got it and they were into it, that's when there was a lot more willingness to talk about what could come after Tokyo Conception if Tokyo Conception performed well. Obviously, they're not impacted by the game not performing well financially, but they are impacted by the game not performing well optically. From a brand awareness perspective and just a brand integrity perspective, it needed to perform well for them to want to return to this. And the book has performed very well. I mean, even with, all the bullshit that's happened with the book and the manufacturer issues and the delays and the early leaks and then the Amazon debacle and then, some of the old shitty print somehow getting into the hands of some folks in the UK and then being sold on like Amazon Netherlands. There were lots of things that went wrong with this project to where Atlas could have been like, yeah, no, we're out. And they never did that. They had questions like when these things would come up. But they were never like, yeah, this is a bridge too far. We're not going to do this anymore. Honestly, the only thing that they ever really, they didn't even get mad about, but I could tell they were just like frustrated with were the leaks that dropped that December before we announced the project. They weren't super stoked about that, but everything after that, they were willing to like just navigate. I mean, when you're in this line of work, like, and these things happen and these problems come up, the only option is like to go forward. And so no one, them nor me ever spend time like dwelling on like, oh fuck, I really wish that wouldn't have happened. Um, it's a lot of like, okay, it happened. Now what do we do? You know, let's just figure out how we deal with this, and we move forward, and we all recognize that like this shit happens, and no one really cares in the end. I think on the consumer side, there's a misunderstanding about how that all works, but really, like when it's business to business, we're like, well, I mean, okay, that wasn't great, but like whatever, we still got to figure out a way to like move forward and do business together. So, the point is, they seem pretty open, and because of that, I think there's a greater chance now, an exponentially better chance now, of pitching them a brand new edition of SMT than ever before. So I would love to do that. I mean, I've talked to Takiza-san, the author, and Nishigami-san, who's a co-author of the book, about doing more in the SMT universe and looking at what it would be like to tackle SMT5 specifically. I think we kicked around some talks about SMT4. We kicked around some stuff about Metaphor, which I know is not SMT, but so I mean, there's been conversations for sure. Nothing's set in stone. I'm not announcing anything. I'm telling you right now with complete transparency, a new edition is not in the works, but I would love to be able to work on one. Okay, drink time. Hey, this is a really cool little anecdote right here. Imagino1234 said, regarding what you said about SMT fans getting into any media that's available, I found that Tokyo Conception is the one game that got me into TTRPGs as a hobby. And so I love hearing stories like that. I fucking love it. That's like, if you want to make the hair stand up on my arm, which it is right now, that's how you do it. You say that like, hey, something you produced got me into the thing. And then I'm like, okay, mission accomplished. Like that's it. That's what I'm doing this for. It's not to make a ton of money. It's a tabletop. I'm in tabletop RPGs. The margins are incredibly slim. I'm not making any big money here. I got a full-time job. I make my money there. What I do with LionWing is I want to introduce more people to a more diverse offering of tabletop games. And specifically, I want to put a spotlight, hang a lantern, if you will, on Japanese designers that would not otherwise have an opportunity to reach a global market, were it not for LionWing, translating and publishing their work and releasing it in the West. And so I do this for these exact stories right here to get people into the hobby that I love so much. And so if you ever want to like motivate me to continue doing this LionWing thing, you just tell me stories like that, and that fills up my cup real quick. Okay, does a successful Nocturne release help sell the other books to Atlas for an English release? Yeah, so I kind of touched on this. It totally does. The game has performed very well, and we're not really even into bookstores yet. So we captured the pre-order market. All right, that performed very well, and the pre-order market is always smaller than the retail market, and it's smaller than the hobby market. So performed well through pre-orders, and history and data and trends, market trends, tell us that it will perform better now that it's out in the wild. So yeah, a successful Tokyo Conception release absolutely helps them come to the table once again and do more in this world. Okay, let's see. Takeda was actually writing on his blog that he wanted to do an SMT5 TRPG around its release in the following months. Yeah, so this is what I love about Takeda-san. The dude is a staple in the Japanese TTRPG scene, and he's been a staple in such a prolific TTRPG designer and writer since the 90s. What I love about this, though, is like a lot of those guys who were designing games, especially in the 90s, but even in the early 2000s and even in like the early 2010s, are just no longer in the industry anymore. A lot of them aged out, a lot of them retired, some of them died. And I know that because I've reached out to authors of very old books for our Legends of Japan initiative, and have eventually gotten to family members who have told us that, okay, this person passed, in 2017 or 2018. And so, there's a natural attrition that happens with any career in any industry is you age and then you age out of it. And so it's very rare then to really meet anyone in any sector still doing the same exact work that they were in the 90s, 30 years ago. That just doesn't happen. I mean, it's not just like in the RPG space. It's like that in the tech space and in the consulting space and in the sales space and the social work space. I mean, that's just like how it goes. So Takeda-san is such a unicorn in that regard of like, he's still in the industry. He's still playing the stuff he loves because he's a fan first and foremost. I think that has helped and added to his longevity. He's still writing about RPGs, so he's playing them, he's writing about them, he's still designing RPGs, and he's still thinking about RPGs. And it's the last one that is the most impressive, because you can still play something you were into 30 years ago. You can still talk or write about it. You can even dabble in designing it if you were a designer of that thing at one point in time. But when a lot of your mind space is taken up by thinking about that thing, that's when you've got an avid, hardcore student of the game whose passion is this thing that they're thinking about. And so I think the fact that hearing that Takeda-san was writing on his blog about wanting to design an SMT5 RPG is like the least surprising thing I've heard in a long time. Like, that makes sense for this guy. He is, I mean, he's 60, and still is into this stuff. And better yet, he's still having works produced. He still is being sought out by other companies. He's not forgotten about, which is what I mean by like, he's such a prolific writer. There would be plenty, I can go back through the litany of Japanese RPGs that have been released since the 80s. And those designers, if they're still around, most of them are not being like actively sought out anymore. To be actively sought out all these decades later, when there's a newer, younger, fresher crop of talent out there doing this thing, and are able to have their finger on the pulse at all times and to execute on that. It's very rare then that anyone would go to someone older who doesn't fit that category. And the only time that they would necessarily do that is if that person was so prolific and they had made such an impact on the scene and are still such a power broker and a key player in that scene. That's the only person. All those boxes have to be checked for that person to still be sought out all these years later. And Takeda-san is. So like, I love this. I love hearing that. I hadn't seen that on his blog. But yeah, that's not shocking to me at all. He's also just like a super nice guy. He is so nice. I've worked with a ton of awesome Japanese designers. Takeda-san is like one of the nicest dudes. So easy to work with too. So easy to work with. You'd think if there was ever anyone who would have the right to be arrogant, it's him. He's got the track record to go along with like a person who would be overly confident in themselves, and yet so humble. And so it makes working with him very easy. What I also love about him is he and I are working together on some other newer projects, designing from the ground up. And each time that I went to him with these ideas, because I if I could employ Takeda-san full time, I totally would. But each time I went to him with one of these ideas and was like, I would love for you to be the designer on this. He's never been like, yeah, no, can't do that. It's always been like, okay, yeah, let me think about this. Let me put together a design doc for you. He recently, I went to him. I was like, hey, I'm doing this proposal for this thing, and I'd love for you to be the designer. Are you into it? We have this initial conversation. He says yes. I'm like, okay, I would need like a gameplay design document / proposal on this thing in like a month. which is an insane turnaround. And he was like, I'll get it to you in 2 weeks. And he did. So, like, great that he's still in the scene for all the obvious reasons, because we all benefit from his designs. Also great that he's still in the scene because I get to work with him. So, makes my job easy. Let's see here. I feel called out, but that last crowdfund did prove it wrong. Let's see what else we got. Someone said, look, I bought Soul Hackers 2 collector's edition at full price on release. I will buy anything with SMT on it. Me too, my friend. Boy, let's talk about how that was Soul Hackers only in name. I actually didn't mind Soul Hackers 2, but it was not a Soul Hackers game. I'm like, what is this? It's good. Not Soul Hackers. Okay. I own several pieces of bootlegged SMT merch. We really will buy anything. So true. It is so true. Okay. Sorry, I'm just reading through all this. I know it makes for dead audio, which is never great. Atlas not having copies of their own products is both insane and completely checks out from what I've heard about Atlas as a company. I've got nothing bad to say about Atlas. I got to be honest. Like, they were like, by and large, easy to work with. Like, they weren't difficult. They didn't throw up unnecessary roadblocks. They didn't get in the way ever. They were involved. They asked good questions when they wanted to see something. I understood why they wanted to see it. So I really don't have anything bad to say about them. I have worked with smaller companies that were way worse. Way worse. I've also worked with companies that are about the same size, or at least the same size as Sega, and they have been not great to work with. So having to, if I got the opportunity to work with Atlas again, I definitely would not at all dread that experience. Okay. Let us not forget that Atlas released SMT1 in English and then made it so nobody could play it. Peculiar. Really like a Devil Survivor supplement. You know, there are so many supplements that don't exist that I would love to make happen, honestly. We were talking about Soul Hackers 2 just a minute ago. I just want a Soul Hacker supplement. Like, I love Soul Hackers. It is within the SMT framework, SMT proper. It is my favorite SMT game. So I would love to be able to play in that world. Devil Survivor isn't talked about enough. I don't know if it was because it was a handheld game or not, but like, Devil Survivor is good. You know, it'd be really fun is to make a Demi Kids supplement. That'd be wild. That'd be wild. Hey kids, come over here and play this RPG about killing God. Okay. Nishigami is a real powerhouse behind many systems and a lot of the data. Yeah, so I don't think people realize, like, all of the data and gameplay balances within Tokyo Conception were, by and large, all Nishigami-san. He's the guy that was in the weeds, you know, working those numbers. All those tables that you see, monster stats, all the math, all the crunch, that's Nishigami-san. Chiquita-san is larger macro picture, wrote everything else, and then he knows that that is not where he wants to be, and so Nishigami-san is oftentimes his co-writer on a lot of these projects, and that was the case here. So, you know, Tokita gets talked about a lot. He's the principal designer, so of course, that's just natural. But indeed, Nishigami-san is... it's unfortunate that he's in the background because, like, he plays such a pivotal role in making these books what they are, and they work the way they work because of his efforts, and of course Tokita-san's, but certainly his efforts too, Nishigami's. And so not enough people even know that he worked on the book. So we do have a nice little credits page in the back that calls him out, gives him his due, credit where credit is due. So yeah, Tokita is definitely more of a quote household name, but yeah, Nishigami is powerhouse in his own right. So I so badly, Alandar, you mentioned that Nishigami is the credited author on Mato 2000X. I wanna I want to publish those 2000X books so badly, so badly. Like low key, love the cover art. Oh my goodness. Oh gosh, that main Mato 2000X cover art is so good. Yeah, it's just as you said there. Takeda writes a lot of the lore setting NPCs, larger gameplay systems, things of that nature, and Nishigami comes in and sort of fills in the gaps there, and knocks out the complicated math sections. In fact, Nishigami is the one who designed the Raito sample PC. Yeah, the 2000X books are indeed compatible for the most part. Let's see here. What, you didn't keep your old iPhone not updated so you could still play the official English iOS SMT1 port? Guess I didn't. Okay. All right. So, let's see here. A couple other things to go over regarding SMT. Pull something up. Oh, this is just sort of a larger thing. I saw someone, linked that Reddit post in the chat earlier this week. Yeah, and like, this is an opportunity for me to say this. If you ever have feedback for me, for LionWing, things you want to see different, concerns you have, or whatever it might be, like reach out to me. Like I've had a lot of people reach out to me with things of that nature directly and have come to me and been like, hey, like I'm having this issue, or like I don't love that this was handled like this, or whatever the case may be. I am always down to have those conversations with people. Like certainly if you have feedback about a company, you are free to like provide that feedback wherever you want to. That's no problem at all. When you're a small company like me, like I am, one person, it's easier if you just come to me directly, and give me the feedback that you think I need to hear as the guy who runs LionWing. And a lot of times when someone comes in and they give me feedback about something, I oftentimes implement the feedback. I mean, so long as it makes, sense for the business and or whatever. I'm very like open to hearing those types of things. Like this is a growing company. It's a one-man operation. Like I am always down to getting better. And so, we have a ton of projects in the pipeline, and I'm the main one orchestrating all of these things. And we have a ton of projects because I want to be working on these projects. I think there was some kind of question in that Reddit post about like, why do they have so many projects going? It's like, well, because it's my company and I want to. I don't know. Like, I like working on projects. That's the reason. It's pretty straightforward in that regard. But yeah, so feel free to come to me anytime with those types of things. Someone brought up in the chat earlier in the week about shipping. So if you ordered the SMT book, or really if you order any of our books and you're across the pond, you've seen that shipping is pretty outrageous. That's primarily because we're shipping from the States globally. For the most part, up until recently, like we've been such a small company with such a small footprint and a dedicated but small audience, 90+% of which has resided in North America, and like 80% of that 90% residing in the US. It's just made more like economical sense and logistical sense to have our shipping operations based out of the US, and then we'll ship to other parts of the world. And that was a strategic decision that I had to make, just from like economies of scale types of issues coming up from that. And so it just made more sense to ship from the States to everywhere else. And unfortunately, the shipping costs were what the shipping costs were, in which I totally understood if people are like, yeah, I can't stomach shipping costs to the UK. That's just as much as the book. I totally get it. Totally get it. That's when I will usually tell, like, hey, see if you can get a retailer from wherever you are to bulk order, like go through them. I can get, that would probably make more economic sense. That being said, with SMT, with Where's Blade, with what I know we've got in the queue coming, we are expanding our shipping operations beyond the US. So we haven't nailed down our place just yet, but we will have a hub in the EU, and we will have a hub in the States. We're only going to have 2 hubs for right now. We'll see how that goes over the next couple of years. If we need to add a 3rd somewhere, I'm definitely down, but it's got to make sense. Like I said, like this is such a slim margin business. I'm not rolling in money to just like eat the cost of all of these things, which is what would effectively have to happen for me to previously, prior to these projects, set up distribution in another country, in Europe somewhere. But I just wasn't able to do that. Now there's a little bit more wiggle room to do that kind of thing. And we are also, I'm seeing an uptick, even with the crazy shipping prices internationally. I'm still seeing an uptick in the past, I'd say 18 months, more international orders coming in than ever before. So, that was what I needed to see to say, like, okay, well, let me do the math here. Let me run these numbers and see if this makes sense to set up distribution outside of the States to be able to handle, those Eastern Hemisphere orders. And, now we're at a place where that does make sense. So we will definitely be doing that for our larger projects for sure. But I think even our smaller projects, I mean, I think I know where we're going to land. And should that all come through the way that I think that it will, then it'll be a distribution agreement in which they will handle any and all of our product that I send to them. And so I'm probably not just going to send them the larger ticket items. It'll probably just be, most of our library, most of our catalog will, a portion of it will be going to them, and then they will handle distribution for that region. So that's coming, which is great. It's great because we get to reach more people. It's great because people have, don't have to spend so much to get our product. And it's great because it means that the company is growing, and that's ultimately what I'm trying to do. Speaking of feedback, did the LionWing bundle come with a 10% discount? The LionWing bundle didn't come with a 10% discount. I think what you might be thinking of is the discount that I gave anyone who pre-ordered SMT because of the ink density issues that plagued the first print run that required me to scrap all those books and not send them out and to do a second printing, as sort of a make good on that debacle. I said, okay, we do a quick reference guide, we do a Rhino sample character, and then I'm going to give people a discount. And anyone who pre-ordered the game prior to the date that I announced that when I sent out that newsletter should have that discount available to them still. So, and you could use it on anything other than Tokyo Conception. And I told people in that newsletter, hey, use it on anything other than Tokyo Conception. It won't work. but maybe you should just hold on to it for a little minute. And I still would say, if you haven't used that discount yet, though plenty of people have, hold on to that. Those are valid until I turn off that discount. So that discount will be valid for quite a long time. So you don't have to worry about rushing to use that coupon anytime remotely soon. I'll probably keep that thing valid for a couple of years. Can I still get my pre-order discount since I didn't get an email? Drop me, Gidra. I don't know if you're in our Discord. I'm pretty sure you are. I'm like 95% positive I've seen your name there. Drop me a DM. Because I wonder, did you not get the email or did it get routed someplace else and you didn't see it? Anyway, the point is, we'll figure it out. Just drop me a DM and I'll troubleshoot with you to figure out how to get you that discount. That discount is valid for how long? For a long time. A long time. Okay, so some other projects. That's been an hour on SMT. Hold on a second. I need a new drink. One moment. So, oh, we don't have your email. Well, that's a problem, isn't it? I couldn't find art for Minnie Frost in the TRPG book. Is he identical to a small Jack Frost, or could it look different? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't. I have to come back to that. Yes, it is Where's Blade time now. So an hour dedicated to SMT. What's next? Well, of course, it's our second largest project ever, and it's Where's Blade. What the hell's been going on with Where's Blade? Well, we posted an update. We posted our January update. Not too long ago, a couple weeks ago. Might not even have been a couple of weeks ago. It may have been last week. I don't know. Time means nothing to me. Let's see here. Where's Blade? We're working on editing. Right now we're editing the book. Translation is totally done. That wrapped up, I think, the last day of the year. I think the translator reached out to me on December 31st. No. I take that back. It was Christmas Eve. Yeah, he reached out to me Christmas Eve because he was like, here's a early Christmas present. Translation's done 100%. It had been like 90-95% done since November-ish, I want to say. But we were really just waiting for one of the appendices to get finished. It was the spell list. And so obviously, while not super huge, that spell list, you had to get it right. And so we took our time with that translation. Anyway, so the translation wrapped up. That part's done. Now we're editing the book. We'll do 1 or 2 passes on the edit, and then we'll put it out for mass proofing through a beta. And I'm hoping to have that beta to people soon-ish. I've really stopped committing to hard timelines because I've realized since 2018 I have been able to stick to like exactly 0 of them. So I will say that beta is coming soon, very soon. That being said, I think we're going to be on track to hit our target though for release. We might be like 6 weeks over the intended target, but even that, I mean, right now it's feeling pretty good. The project's feeling pretty good. The translation was really good. Editors are working their way through it. So I'm hoping we can hit that. I think I saw this somewhere in the chat this week. Are we going to be anywhere this year at conventions to celebrate the Where's Blade anniversary? We are going to be at conventions this year. We will be announcing which ones shortly. I actually just had a conversation on Friday with a guy that I hired to handle our convention stuff. And so we'll be at, I think, 3, basically. 1 in spring, 1 in summer, at least 1 in fall / early winter of this year. So you'll be able to see us. It'll be a little bit more local to my area, not like super local cons. We'll be at some of the bigger ones. We will not be at Gen Con just because to be a vendor or an exhibitor, that waiting list is years long. So it's really hard to get in the Gen Con, especially like at the drop of a hat. That just doesn't exist. You really got to play the long game to get into Gen Con. Not to mention, like, I don't have a huge interest in being at Gen Con just because it's so easy to get lost at Gen Con. And so I'd rather be at some of the larger conventions, but not the largest ones. That's not productive for LionWing to just sort of get lost in all that noise, which we definitely would. So, any chance of reaching out to Kotobukiya for some tie-in or more models coming to the US? I am not interested in the model game. I am just not. It's a headache. Talk about slim margins. I know it doesn't seem like models would be a slim margin, but they are. And there's a lot that can go wrong. And I am trying not to do... Books already have enough that can go wrong with them, but like comparatively speaking, models in the model world, like way more shit can go sideways than when you're just printing books. So I'm going to stick to books right now. That being said, will there be tie-in stuff for Where's Blade? Yes, there will be. So I'm really excited about building out the Where's Blade brand and the product line of Where's Blade, not just the RPGs. And I mentioned this in January's update on the Where's Blade Kickstarter. I want to do more with the RPG books, of course. That's what got us to the dance. But I really want to. I really want to translate and publish those novels. So, and there's so many of them, and I've wanted to do more in more traditional book publishing. Anyway, we've got a couple of things that we'll be announcing later in the year that align with that that objective. So, I absolutely want to work more in the Where's Blade sandbox. Will not include models, but if it's a book and it's got Where's Blade in the name, I'm at least interested. And at this point, I may have already been talking and signed deals. So I just think I think the setting of Where's Blade is so unique. I think it's timeless. I think some things, like when you go super retro with whatever, with books, video games, anything, like sometimes, these things don't age well, or even if they age well, you can still just like, it's like, oh yeah, a really old thing aged well, but like it aged well, but it's still really old and it feels really old. What I like about Where's Blade is its setting and its art. While the art is retro, it doesn't necessarily feel it. Yes, it does feel retro. Like it's decidedly retro, but it's also like cool retro. It's not like, oh, that's retro and it's cool because it's retro. It's like, oh, that's retro and it also just happens to be fucking awesome. And so I do think the setting is just very unique as well. Why we don't have more fantasy with mechs, I don't know. I mean, it kind of feels like everyone thought we moved on from that setting back in the 90s, and I'm over here like I didn't move on from it. Nope, I'm still here. I'm still in 1991 right now with that setting. Like, and that setting feels just as relevant now as it did then, probably because it wasn't overused and abused and sanitized in that process. And just simply overdone and was overexposed to the point that it means nothing anymore. I think because it never really caught on like globally in a big way, definitely it caught on in parts, it caught on in Japan, all that good stuff. I'm not denying that, but like internationally didn't catch on in a huge way. That setting, yes, there's plenty of works that exist in that space, but not a ton. And the larger population isn't talking about those things regularly, which says to me, there is a lot of meat on that bone that no one else has picked over the decades. And so if I can do my part and publishing more badass RPG books set in the Where's Blade universe, and then I can also publish books that tell badass stories in that badass universe called Where's Blade, hell yeah, I'm going to do that. And so Where's Blade was always, even from the very beginning of negotiations, it was always, I was always transparent with Shindosha of like, I see this as a larger thing. Like, we're going to start with the rule book, but I'm not stopping at the rule book, which is, I mean, other than SMT, I've never said that about any other product. I maybe have thought about it, but it was never a serious enough thought to express it to the author or the rights holder, especially early in the process, like I did with the Where's Blade. But it was such a present thought in my mind that even at the beginning, I'm like, hey, I want to do this rule book, but also just know there's got to be more. I want to do more. This is too interesting of a product to just do a one and done. Some things are perfect for a one shot, a one and done thing. I would argue like most things should be one and done. Like, sequel exhaustion's real at this point. But this is one of those times where I'm like, nope, it's time to go back to that well, and we should go to that well quite a bit for right now. So Jake said the essence of nostalgia is practically built into the text in the world of Where's Blade. I agree. You know, there is a lot of nostalgia there, which is cool. Okay, Lodos War. So yeah, Lodos War. I don't know. You know, if you look back at like my very early episodes of LionWing Talks, you'll actually see a Lodos framed print off to the side of the shot. Like, I am such a Lodos like fanboy. I'm not a fanboy of like many things in life. Like, I feel like fanboyism sort of like happened after me. Like, it wasn't really a part of my generation. We were fans of things, but like we weren't fanboys of things by and large. So like I kind of missed that whole thing. But there are a few things that I am a fanboy of. And Lodos is one of the select few things that I am a diehard fan of. I would love to work in that space. It's complicated because of the upcoming Sword World stuff and the rights holder, the author, Katakawa being involved, all that. So it just makes it really, really hard to navigate. Like, Lodos is one of the harder IPs to navigate in my experience, because it's not like I haven't reached out. I mean, I have a relationship with Katakawa. We're getting ready to release or announce a Katakawa project. I have a relationship with them, and so you better bet your bottom dollar that I've brought it up. And my last Japanese business relations specialist, who was also my interpreter at the time, worked at Katakawa in the editing department for RPGs. So I had an inside man, so to speak. And even he was like, dude, Lodos, it feels untouchable in many regards. Now, will it become touchable with the upcoming Sword World release? Maybe. I probably won't be the one touching it, though, unfortunately. If there was like one, and I've said this before on one of these shows, if there was one product, one IP that I could work with above all others, like literally, if I had my pick of the litter, every IP was available to me, I would probably choose Lodos. It would be Lodos or Wizardry. Like, those would be. It's like a 1A, 1B situation with those two. So, let's see here. Yeah, Where's Blade got me. I still need to buy it. Yes, you do. I agree. You still do need to buy it. Let's see here. Me, not a mech fan, also me, likes Where's Blade anyway, and can Victor drive. The new Ray Earth anime adaptation might help some new fans realize how cool fantasy mecha is. Yeah, so like, speaking of IPs that I would love to work with, like, I love MKR. So I blame it on Working Designs and their Sega Saturn Magic Knight Ray Earth game. Got me into that IP, and I've loved it ever since. But I love Clamp in general. Like, I love their art direction. I could talk about X for days. I won't do that right now. I think Ray Earth would make for badass RPG. I'm trying to remember. Was there a Magic Knight Ray Earth TTRPG that used the Magus engine back in the 90s? And I'm just like blanking on it. Magus was that like generic system that produced and churned out a ton of IP RPGs in the 90s. Slayers, Lunar, a couple others, and I just cannot remember if Magic Knight was a part of that lineup. I felt like any anime IP that had any popularity whatsoever got a Megas a Megas RPG adaptation. I actually have a copy of the Magical School Lunar Megas RPG. Art's terrible, just terrible. So disappointing. Anyway, yo, Wizardry, my wallet is right here. Mine is too. I would overpay by a lot for the Wizardry IP. I'd pay more for Lotus, but I'd pay a lot for Wizardry, especially with our Legends of Japan initiative with Where's Blade. We've got a second Legends of Japan RPG that we'll be announcing at some point. So it would just make a ton of sense to work with Wizardry. I have brought it up to Katakawa. I have made it very clear to them, like, once we're done with this project that we haven't announced yet, like, that's what I'm asking about next. Now, Wizardry has a very complicated IP situation as well that spans oceans, and multiple people probably, I'm trying to think, because I've already engaged in some of those talks a little bit just to figure out like what the IP status is, because it is so weird. Probably the most complicated IP that I've reached out about, just because there's lots of hands in the pot, and the hands that are in the pot don't really know about the other hands in the pot, or if they do, they don't really know like whose hand is the main one in the pot and whose isn't. So super complicated to navigate that web of messiness, but I would navigate any web of messiness and pay any amount of money for Wizardry. They had Tenchi Muyo. Yes, of course they did. Evangelion. Yes, they did. Yeah, tons more. Absolutely. I know there was an official American Sailor Moon anime around the time. Sorry, official. Sorry, I'm just catching up on some things I missed. I'm so ready for literally any Legends of Japan release. Doesn't matter what it is. I think you guys are gonna like the second one. It's not gonna be what you expect, but people know it. We put out a survey, and it's still available at the top of our website. You can go and you can fill out the Legends of Japan want list, which is where you just go, it's a Google form. You type in any old RPG you want to see us work with. A lot of Wizardry actually from that survey. A lot of people responded to that survey. I expected like 20 people to be interested in that, and like completing that survey, and we've had about 4 times that much, so that's been cool. Yeah, Wizardry is a regular call out in that survey, but so is the one that we're going to announce. It's not the one that's gotten called out the most. It's probably not even in the top 3, but a lot of people know it. I'll say that much. A lot of people know it. Yes. Oh no, the pot is filled with hands. Yes, it is. Many hands. Okay, so what else is going on? Other projects. Ketamona Opera. Taken longer than expected. Fern and Jake, who are in here, they have helped coordinate a lot of our manufacturing with our games. We run everything through Longpack Games. They're a manufacturer based out of Shanghai, known for quality, but known for being super slow. And over the years, you'd think that they would find efficiency in just doing this more because they have grown. It's almost like they have found inefficiency as they've grown. In fact, this is such a problem, and they're so slow, and so many people are like constantly having to hound them to see like where their project is. They now have an online project tracker, which is the first printer that I've worked with that has ever implemented something like that or ever had to implement something like that. So to me, that says they've got a lot of people regularly reaching out asking, hey, what is the status of my thing? Because they will tell you, they'll tell you like, oh yeah, we'll have a sample ready for you mid-February. Mid-February will come and go. The end of February will come and go. Mid-March will come and go. Then you'll finally hear from them, at some point in March. Oh, yeah, well, actually, we forgot to ask about this. And then it's like, wait a second. I thought we were on to like the sampling part. And the question you just asked indicates that we haven't even gotten there yet, but we were supposed to have been there and then surpassed that by this point, but we haven't done that at all. And so, they're super nice and they're super thorough, and so like the sacrifice of being thorough and producing good stuff is how quickly they can get through a project, which is not quickly at all. So Ketamona Opera it's still cooking, it's still coming. Like the project is done, from our end, and has been done for a while. It's just taking a really long time. I mean, they were supposed to be wrapped up in like January at the latest, but I took that as meaning like early January, because the realistic timeline that they gave me was like November, December, and here we are at the end of January, and they're still not done. So I get to write an awesome Kickstarter post saying, hey, guess what? No news yet. We're still waiting for the print run to finish up. We are printing. I know that much. I know we're in mass production. It's just taking forever. My guess is if there's a holdup, which they haven't told me about any, but clearly there is, it's probably the dice. Dice always hold us up. Almost always fucking hold us up. You would think that producing standard 16 millimeter dual color resin dice, just like your everyday dice, would not be an issue. Like, how many dice could they possibly be producing every year? A fuck ton is the answer. And yet, it's usually the dice that take the longest. Or there'll be an issue, or like with Fledge Witch, they gave us those little tiny dice. And they're like, hey, your dice is done. Here's a picture of it. And I was like, wow, that's microscopic. What are we doing here? So there's always some kind of like fuckery with the dice in this place. Like if Long Pack has a weakness outside of being mega slow, it is they cannot produce dice with any efficiency to save their lives. So it's probably the dice that's taking so long. I don't know. That's just a shot in the dark. So that's Ketamona. Eldritch Escape. We're back in regular contact with the Japanese team. I think there was someone who posted something on the Eldritch Kickstarter page today asking about the Japanese update. And at this point, we've kind of done our part with the book and with the Japanese book. And now the Japanese team is actually handling all the production. They're handling it in-house. They're printing in Japan, which was not the original plan. Then it was the plan. Then it wasn't the plan. Now it's back to being the plan. So fortunately, Japan printers are like uber efficient, go figure, right? And can print just really quickly, especially when you're local. It's just like like when we printed Steambuild Riders, that was a local job, printed right down the street. I mean, mega quick. It took like 2 weeks to print that book. So I think the Eldritch Japanese edition, the end is in sight, which is good news. It also means that now that the Japanese team is re-engaging, they were kind of MIA there for a little minute, we can get this campaign cycle pass going. In fact, most of the campaign cycle pass is already done. We designed it internally because I couldn't quite depend on the Japanese team to get that done after waiting for quite a while. So like there's definitely movement there too, just slower than I would like. also one of the reasons why I want to stop giving out hard timelines, because when you work in physical media, nothing goes according to plan. Okay, so that's that. What else is going on? Wild Hunt Festival is coming along. Yes, that's technically Wild Hunt Studios, but they're a division of LionWing, so that's coming along. I think we're exactly on target to hit our timeline there. We've got some exciting stuff coming up for Wild Hunt Festival and some other Wild Hunt Festival related stuff. Some news that literally I just told the Wild Hunt Studios team about tonight. Got off a meeting, had a meeting this evening from 6 to 7 p.m. Got off that meeting with the rights holder of this thing. Went to Fern and Jake, said, "Oh boy, we're cooking." So there's cool stuff happening with Wild Hunt Festival as well. If you don't know Wild Hunt Festival because you're just here for the RPGs, Wild Hunt Festival is our most successful board game. It's a 1 to 4 player cooperative JRPG like combat simulator, if you will, inspired by the combat systems of classic console RPGs, Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, all that good stuff. So badass game, really fun to play. Easy to learn, difficult to master, that kind of thing. Like, doesn't take up a lot of table space, not a lot of components, don't got to do a bunch of bookkeeping. It's just like a super snappy board game. If you like JRPGs and you want to play one that is a tabletop conversion of the best, check it out. It's badass. Can we do a reveal episode? So Jake and Fry Guy Fern in the chat are the two employees of Wild Hunt Studios. That's why they're asking about this. Jake, when you say, can we do a reveal episode? What are we revealing? There are like many things that we could reveal right now with that property. So I don't know which one you're referencing, but just answer it generally. Yes, we could do a reveal episode. We would just we'd have to narrow down which reveal. There's so much shit cooking right now behind the scenes. It's a lot. Everything. Yes, a reveal episode for everything. Yeah, I think I do have I think I've decided we are doing a LionWing showcase too. It'll be a little smaller in scope, but no less impactful, I don't think. So I think we'll probably put in the Wild Hunt Festival reveal into that. It'll probably be a 3-project showcase instead of a 5-project showcase that we did a couple years ago. So we could reveal all, but I don't want to. I mean, a lot more than that, but not quite ready to talk about all the things happening. Okay. So I think I'm caught up on all projects. I think those are the updates. I would love to see more games of Tokyo Conception happening in the Discord. That's something that I would like to see. For real, for real. Finally, LionWing reveals the true answer to the meaning of life. You know, I could try to do that. I could try to do that for you, Ray of Truth. I don't know if you'll like my answer. You know, I was a psychotherapist for a long time, and I would have people come to me and sort of like kind of ask that same question of me, expecting me to be able to answer, and I'm just like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, I'm a therapist. I'm not like, tell me about your problems. I can answer questions about your problems. I do not have the answer to life, though. Okay. One last look here through the chat. Make sure I addressed everything I wanted to. I feel like there was like one thing that I'm missing. I'm trying to quickly run through it. I do love seeing those photos of people posting their books. So someone tonight posted their ultimate bundle, all 3 covers. Whoo, whoo. Talk about giving you goosebumps. That'll do it. Let's see here. Hey, I found these spots on my book. No, I don't. I'll have to contact that person. Sorry, I'm just now catching up on the chat. I haven't like watched the chat a whole lot today. Believe it or not, I am usually watching the chat. I don't usually engage. I don't usually respond, but always watching, as they say. And then let me look at Twitter real quick because I feel like someone asked me something there. Let's see. No, actually, no, I guess I didn't. Actually, it's just been folks tagging us in photos of getting their books finally. It's a great feeling. This has just been such a long time coming. It's also a massive weight off my shoulders. Like, oh God, like I don't gotta carry that around anymore like I was. Yeah, someone got my Monsters Inc. Mike Wazowski quote. Okay. I'm in an SMT group meeting weekly. We play in a dedicated Discord server. Oh, that's cool. It's always cool to hear about stuff like that. Oh yeah, do you have a Blue Sky? You know, so I made a Blue Sky a long ass time ago when it looked like Twitter was going to implode, which I'm still not convinced it won't. But as a precautionary measure, I did make a Blue Sky account. And then like, if you haven't noticed, I'm just terrible at keeping up with social media in general. Like again, it's just me. And I have a day job, a demanding day job. And so like, I only have so much of me to go around by the end of the day. And so I have to really allocate my resources strategically. And I never allocate resources to social. So I'll go months without posting. It's terrible. Let me just I'm well aware what a terrible business practice that is. I got it. You don't need to tell me. I'm good. Terrible idea. And yet I still do it. So I can't even keep up with the main social handles, let alone something a little bit more niche like Blue Sky. Though, you know, obviously a lot of the tabletop crowd is on Blue Sky. And so I really should be there. And I've got the account. I just need to social media just sucks the energy out of me. It's like something that like, I think the problem is not only is there like only so much of me to go around by the time I get home and I hang out with my family and do all that stuff, and I finally sit down and work on LionWing stuff at 9 p.m., 10 p.m. I like to like do the stuff that I'm good at when it comes to LionWing, and like social media, I'm just not good at. So I don't like it. Like I'm not good at it. I don't like it probably because I'm not good at it. And so it just becomes like this huge burden that I just don't engage with. And I just need to get better about it. I need to, as my mentor once said, Bradley, run toward the danger. So I just need to run toward the danger. Okay. So, but you know what? In 2026, I feel like it seems like a reasonable goal to set for LionWing to have some kind of presence on social media. What really bums me out is I see all these companies, especially tabletop companies, just full of like super creative people. Like most of the time when someone runs a tabletop company, like a smaller mid-tier, mid-size designer publishing company in this industry, they tend to be like creatives. You know, they're designers themselves. And that's not to say I'm not a creative in some regard. But it seems like their brains are a little bit more wired to be super creative when it comes to social media. And so I see that, I fall into the trap of like, I see all these other people doing all these cool stuff, doing all these cool things. And I'm like, I could never do that. Like, I'm not smart enough to post that. I'm not witty enough to post that. And then I just really don't engage. So like, I'm absolutely a victim of the social media, like comparison curse. But I will try to get better. I will try. Jake says the year of LionWing, every year, all year. I remember the summer of LionWing. You guys remember that? The long timers here, the grizzled veterans of the LionWing community. Remember the summer of LionWing? That was like 2021, I want to say, or 2022. Yeah, oh, those were good days. So this could be the year of LionWing. I like that. We do have some cool stuff happening this year. So big things. I think at this point we just have big announcements at this stage, which is kind of what happens. Once you release something of the caliber on the scale of an SMT RPG book, and then you do a pretty good sized Kickstarter like Where's Blade, it does give you more cachet, which allows you to broker better deals and work with bigger IP and be given more freedom to work with those IP. And so at this stage, yeah, we've got a lot of big announcements coming. I kind of feel like in many regards, I've been building to this since 2018. This is where I've wanted the company to be for a long time, but just like you got to put in the seed hours in this business and in this industry, especially. A lot of people don't even make it this far in this industry because, again, margins are slim. There's not a lot of money to be made. But this is where I've wanted to be, and so I'm like really excited about what 2026 has to offer. I'm excited about these announcements. I want to make sure that I don't announce things too early, but at the same time, I don't want to just sit on a bunch of projects either. So it's all a delicate dance. The next announcement: weekly official TTRPG games for SMT and Where's Blade. Yeah, I mean, we were kind of doing that with SMT. I think now that it's released, there's probably a bigger audience for that kind of thing when it comes to Tokyo Conception. And I think once Where's Blade really gets rocking, we had the Kickstarter, and then we just kind of disappeared from the public eye, just disappear in the sense of like we just put our heads down to start working on that project and get it across the finish line as quickly as we can. But once we get this beta out and all 3,000 people get a chance to who back the campaign, they get a chance to kind of see what it's about, then I think there'll be a more concerted effort and a concerted push to do more, with Where's Blade. And some of that will be actual plays. Some of it will be, additional Where's Blade project announcements, all that good stuff. So, here's someone coming in with the deep cut. Convictor Drive supplements, please. Yeah. There's coincidentally enough, Jake and Fern can vouch for this, but there's been a lot of chatter about Convictor Drive behind the scenes as of late. So, you never know. You never know what might happen with some of our older books. As I have gone on the record to say many times, I kind of said it earlier tonight, or at least alluded to it heavily. I don't typically like to play in one space for very long. I don't do a lot of supplements in general, primarily because creatively, not for every book. All right. Don't clip this and assume this is how I think in general, but creatively, I don't find supplements working on them. That's what I mean. Creatively working on them, doing what I do for LionWing. It's not super stimulating for me. Because I've already been there, I've seen that world. Most of the books I'm touching anyway, and especially a lot of our earlier books, I'm doing all the editing myself. I've lived in those worlds. I've done it. I'm not interested in going back since since LionWing is more of a like a passion project thing. I've got to be like really interested in the stuff to like exert the energy toward these projects, because all the hours that I spend on these projects is hours away from my family, and so it's got to be like really it's got to be like really creatively stimulating for me. Um, to lose time that I'll never get back that I didn't get to spend with my family to work on LionWing stuff. And supplements just don't do it for me. They don't fill my cup up. That being said, as I mentioned before, but that's not always the case, because there are some books, there are some properties that I do want to play more in, like SMT, like Where's Blade. Generally speaking, though, I have not done the supplements thing. But it's not just because of like the creative output that's needed for me to be invested in them, but I have shared in some of the previous episodes, but if you haven't seen them, I'll give you the details now. Supplements typically sell about 30% of your about 30% of your original audience are going to show up for the supplement, for the first supplement. And then every supplement after that, you lose 5 to 15%. So by the time you get to the second or third supplement, you got 5%, maybe less, of your original audience buying that thing. And so they don't make a lot of sense financially, unless it's just like a huge juggernaut of a franchise. Of course, there's always going to be those out there. Like a D&D wouldn't do supplements if it didn't make them money. Fabula Ultima is like one that doing supplements works for them, but they've got a huge install base, so to speak, right? So like you got to have this really big built-in audience so that when only 30% show up, well, it's 30% of 20,000 people. Okay, that's still worth it financially. That's still worth it. But I'm working in niche goods here, and so it doesn't usually make a lot of sense financially to revisit supplements. Now, sometimes some of our books I've wanted, and I would gladly creatively be involved in a supplement because I like the world that much. Convictor Drive is one of those. But like, does it make sense financially to do that? Because if you're working on a supplement for this thing over here, that's time that you don't have and that you're not spending on this thing over here. And maybe this thing over here makes a little bit more sense from like a business model perspective. So, not to get too inside baseball and like the boring stuff, but like these are the realities of working in this business. I know the people who really love certain books want more books of that thing, and I totally get it. I'm that guy too with certain properties and certain IPs. I just like can't get enough of certain IPs. But when you're on the other end of things and you're running the company that does those additional things of that certain IP, it's got to make sure that like you're not losing money at the end of the day, especially because margins are slim. So there you go. I do love that people like Convictor Drive. It seems like Convictor Drive is one of the ones that gets talked about quite a bit from our older games. Older came out like 2 years ago, but whatever. Sword World has 1 million supplements, not to mention the setting, Travelers, Replays. Yeah, and that makes sense for Sword World. It's a big IP, and Katakawa wouldn't keep doing those things if they weren't making money off them. Do they make a ton of money off them? I'm not convinced of that, but they must make enough. Tokyo Conception has one supplement and yet has Fiends, Minora. Yeah, yes. So again, there are some IPs that I absolutely want to revisit. So don't just take this as like I'm against all supplements. I definitely am not. I would like to do more with replays. I have said that early. I remember doing my first interview for Picaresque Roman, which was our first Japanese RPG that we did. Once we kind of pivoted into the RPG space and out of the traditional board game space. And there's a replay in that book. And I remember going on some interview, it may have been with Mildra, the gaming monk, and just saying like, I wish more Western RPGs included replays. Like, it's a great way to learn the mechanics through like a more narrative approach. And also like, it's fun to read about how someone's game or session of this game that I'm buying the book for went. Like, that's just, to me, inherently interesting. And so I like replays. I think with the right property, replays would make sense for LionWing. So wouldn't mind doing one of those. And especially, you know, as I mentioned before, like with wanting to incorporate more traditional book publishing into LionWing, and into our business model and translating and publishing novels, you know, replays are like this really interesting kind of weird bridge between what we're doing now and what new stuff I want to incorporate into our catalog. So you never know. Might do more supplements, might do some replays, might release some of those things for free, might sell them. Who knows? Time will indeed tell. I wonder if it would have made more sense to just combo the supplement into the SMG Tokyo Conception book. This is one of those times where I would say no. No, I don't think it would. Certainly with some other properties, there would have been an opportunity to sort of bundle them together, or to just slide the supplemental books material into the core rulebook and just call it like a definitive edition, a definitive English edition. That's not SMT. The quote install base of Tokyo Conception is large enough to where supplements are A, creatively interesting for me, and B, financially motivating. So yeah, that is one of those rare instances where no, I would definitely want to, if given the opportunity, release multiple SMT RPG books, supplements. I've read through one of Takeda's SMTX replays very recently. It's awesome to have a glimpse in how he runs things. He also gets his daughter in on the games. Yes, like, and you know what, Alandar, like that could only have been accomplished through a replay. There's magic in a replay. There just is. I think replays are like totally underrated. I think they're underappreciated. I think they're undervalued. I think they are great learning tools and great storytelling devices. So okay. So that takes us to 11:45. It is late, folks. I have been talking for an hour and 45 minutes. And I think I've hit all the key topics. I want to thank everyone for showing up tonight, for asking questions, for being involved. And most importantly, I want to thank people for supporting LionWing. As a small operation, like it like has such a huge impact when people show up and support the brand and buy a product. You don't got to buy all the products. But just buying one is like super helpful and like is impactful in a way that you won't know unless you too have run a small business. So like a single purchase really can go a long way. And I want to thank people who have purchased something of ours with trusting us, with like selling you that product. That's money you will never get back, right? Like you spend $60 on SMT, you will never get that $60 back. You'll make another $60, but you'll never get that $60 back. And so like that's never lost on me. And I just really appreciate it. What we're doing here is it is niche, and it is different and kind of weird, but like I love it. And the only way that we continue to do this and that we continue to bring out more Japanese RPGs and product is with your all support. We've gotten to this point only because of you guys, quite literally. That's the only reason I'm here talking to you tonight, is because you all have given me the opportunity to do that by allowing us to stay in business as long as we have. And you've done that by supporting the brand, buying some of our stuff. Certainly some people have bought all of our stuff. You're amazing too. But even if you just bought one thing, you are amazing. And then you spent your time with me tonight. You could have done anything else. This is 2 hours you never get back. You'll have another 2 hours, but not this, not these last 2 hours. And you spent it with me. You're a fool for doing that, by the way. Let me tell you, I'm not that interesting, but I'm very thankful that you did it. I appreciate your questions. We got more stuff on the horizon. I'm really looking forward to it. This is an exciting time for LionWing. 2026 is going to be a great year. Like, so stoked about what we have coming down the pipe. And I think, more importantly, you all are going to be just as excited. So that's it for episode 40, the 40th episode of LionWing Talks. I will see you guys next time. Who knows when that will be? I'll see you in the Discord. If you have any questions about SMT or any of the other products, drop me a message on Discord. You certainly can do it through like a Kickstarter DM if it's about a Kickstarter project. I tell people, and I know some people get frustrated because I say like this is the primary way to contact me, but like it is what it is. I'm sorry. The best way to contact me is a DM. I see all of those. Whereas a Kickstarter message I may miss. Kickstarter's not super great about always like notifying me. Not to mention the only way they notify me is by sending me an email. And I can't tell you how many emails I get in a single day. Like hundreds. I don't get hundreds of Discord DMs though. So if you really want to make sure your stuff is seen, hit me up there. But really, wherever is convenient for you, I'll eventually get to you. So until next time, thank you so much. See you soon.